3, 2, 1.
Is that the new thing? Question mark for the one now?
Yeah, because it says please stand by. I will let you guys know as soon as I get the live stream on the other end of YouTube.
Not if I get there first.
Yeah, if you can let me know.
Yep, we're good.
All right, we're good.
The
We're
tube
live.
of you.
All right, Keith.
You are on the tube.
Go ahead and give us the intro.
We are live. One person is watching. That could be me, though. Or it could be Mitch.
No, it's
Welcome
me.
back, Mitch. After a week's absence, we are welcoming Mitch back. As he very amusingly said, "I'm back, Mitches," in his tweet the other day. We are the Beerumverate. We are a group of guys from Sifted.net who like to talk about good beer and video games. We are not here to promote drinking. Please drink responsibly. Any beers or breweries we may talk about aren't sponsoring us, although we probably don't need sponsorship after Matt's intake from last night.
No.
If you would like to be on the show, please message myself, Matt, or Mitch on Sifted.net or on Twitter, and we'll try and organise a time where we can be together to talk about the daft shit that we normally talk about on a weekly basis. Like and subscribe.
Hit that bell.
Just don't break it. Just don't break it.
Don't. I know someone is out there who's broken a mouse because they hit that bell so hard. That's it. They're and they were left-handed as well, so it's that right mouse key because they had it set up. How I know this, we'll never know. Right. Do we want to do beers? I know Matt doesn't want to do beers.
No.
Because he's suffering from alcohol remorse.
I'll let you guys run through your beers.
So I'll kick off. I've got no idea what the hell this is, but I saw the can and thought, that looks quite interesting.
Looks a bit like Spy vs. Spy from Mad Magazine.
Mikkeller, Copenhagen.
Okay.
It's a bit bland, if I'm honest.
Okay.
I've got another one, which the nose on this is much better.
Interesting.
So this one's the IPA. That's much hoppier, much more crisp. Much prefer
When
the
you
IPA
said
to
crisp
the
right
pale ale.
there, you sound like Gordon Ramsay.
Crisp. Yeah, I can't stand that, man.
I feel like you two would get along.
An odious, detestable human being he is.
You've got to forgive him. His commitment to giving the internet great memes is just overwhelmingly good.
His contribution is much appreciated.
Exactly.
He has done a lot of hard work to contribute to this, so we do gotta give him some respect.
Yeah, okay. Well done on creating a brand for yourself by being an obnoxious shitbag.
Isn't that what you're doing?
I'm not obnoxious.
I feel like all of those people come from Britain for some reason.
Well, him and Jeremy Clarkson, I'd say, were the top two offenders.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's okay when he's abusing James May, though, right? You know.
But is that workplace bullying?
It's true.
Someone should contact HR.
He just needs to cut his hair. That's all.
Right. Mitch, tell us what you are up to in your absence. Oh no, you're on call again.
Yeah. But I am, for the record, gonna go drink after this and drink as much as Burkoff has drank.
Oh Jesus.
Maybe more. And I'll tweet if I feel as bad as Burkoff right now.
Yeah, I would not recommend that.
There may be someone who's feeling not necessarily as bad as Burkoff, but I don't know if any of you watched the rugby. So Japan beat Ireland. And did you see Evan's tweet of just the pub that he was in going?
Oh my God.
Absolutely fucking mental. Loved it. So I'm betting that he's had a very good night and he's probably sleeping like a baby. Right, Liam,
how is that even possible?
What?
That Japan beat Ireland in rugby.
They just outplayed them. and it kind of looked like Ireland didn't. They weren't up for the fact that Japan were just going to come out and smash them in the face for 80 minutes.
It's also the fact it is coming up to an Olympic year, and probably they're investing tons of money in all their teams.
On steroids.
Absolutely, all the undetectable steroids.
Yeah, I think that the Japanese team just seemed more up for it.
Okay.
It's kind of like Ireland last week against Scotland. Ireland just looked up for it, and Scotland looked like they didn't want to be there. Liam, I'm not at all hopeful for Scotland qualifying for the knockout stages after that. They played Japan in the last game. It was just like, Liam, do you want to weigh in on the beers this week? Or
I'm afraid I can't. I'm still on a keto diet. Although,
okay, well,
I would like to say
up.
thank you to Rafa, who recommended me a bunch of keto beers. I've tried a couple and they're already pretty good. Not too bad. I mean, it beats not having anything.
That's true.
Yeah. Just stay away from jam and small holes. I've heard that they can wreck your life.
I've heard they're extremely dangerous and should be avoided at all costs.
Yeah.
Don't buy an iPhone because of it.
You wouldn't. You just fall into the iPhone and you just end up like in the quantum realm in Ant-Man, just shrinking over and over and over again.
They're so expensive they create their own singularities.
Right, rumours. I've been a bit tardy and I'm rumourless this week.
I am not rumorless this week. What I make up in not beer, what I make up in rumors is what I make up for beer. So, unfortunately, my source has unfortunately passed away. And I can only say that because, leaks of this kind is considered treasonous and spying. And you know what we did to spies back in the day. So I think, unfortunately, that's what happened.
That's the most political we'll get.
So I do have a new source, and he's awesome. He just like tweets me secret cryptic messages on the side. It's great. And so I heard so we got the whole RingCon thing that's coming out for the Fit Adventure game for the Switch. I'm personally actually kind of excited. I think this will actually be the first game where I think it actually could affect people and be an actual healthy game, besides like way better than Wii Fit could ever be because of that resistant band type things. And the game actually kind of looks kind of fun to just try randomly to play for a certain amount of time in the day. But anyways, so I heard a rumor from my source that this was their plan all along. They wanted this thing. They wanted you to engage in this game because every other game after this must use the RingCon. So that means when you are playing Luigi's Mansion, you are going to catch ghosts with your RingCon. And so it's actually going to vibrate in which direction you have to turn to make sure that you're capturing the ghost with the vacuum. And you're kind of like going to go in a circle and you're going to look really ridiculous. And then when Luigi walks around, you have to do the exact motion of how Luigi walks, or else he will not move for any part of the game. So, just know that RingCons are here and here to stay forever, fellas.
I'm so confused right now.
Makes me feel sick. Nintendo does that. I hope they die and burn in a fire.
Let's move swiftly on from there. Mitch, would you like to introduce the topic this week, because it was one that you brought up and I thought it was particularly good.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I appreciate that.
Yeah, that wasn't too patronizing. It wasn't meant to sound patronizing, but it came across that way.
Yeah, so there's always been one game in my entire life that I've always so obviously I grew up with kind of the PlayStation 2. My first console I ever got to like purchase myself as a young middle schooler was a PlayStation 3. And that was kind of my first real console that I felt like I owned, that I purchased. And so I felt like I had comfort in. And so during that time, there's also the talks about games and releasing of games, and exclusivity was starting to kind of move around when that kind of started as well, of where Microsoft was getting a lot of exclusives, or things that were exclusive to Sony were no longer becoming exclusive to Sony. And that included, Grand Theft Auto, that included, what was the other one I can think of right now? Final Fantasy. That was another one that went over to multi-platform, which cool, no worries. But I remember when people were starting to get worried about that, Sony announced a game by Rockstar called Agent. I have waited.
What year was that?
Oh my God, I don't even know. I think it was probably like 2000. What?
It's like
2005, I think.
Oh, was it? I thought it was 2007.
I was thinking it was like 2003, but 5 is probably closer, to be honest.
Because it was the
I didn't
same year
graduate.
they announced Red Dead Redemption, I think.
No, you're right. It is 2005 because I didn't graduate high school till 2011, and I was in middle school, so that would make sense age-wise of where I was.
Young people.
So that was a game I just always kept my ear to the ground, and I heard things and like, oh yeah, they're working on it, and then, oh, we're still working on it, and then years later we're still working on it. And then we always would get the news of like, oh yeah, here's some environmental art, or someone's applying for something to go into Agent. And I think this was probably the one game I think that ended up being canceled that probably we have heard more things about than anything. Like, just the long wait of this game is probably the longest wait we've ever waited for any kind of game before, unfortunately, they said we're canceled. And then they also posted an article about how those people then use those assets to make Red Dead Redemption 2. It's a great article. I recommend you read it. It actually talks about how this team from Rockstar was not one of the main Rockstar teams to make Agent, and what they were going to do with the game. It sounded really cool, but if you ever want to check out a cool article, that's it. But it really just made me think of like, I actually was like, this one isn't my choice for the most excited game that I was going to say that get canceled, but it just made me think about, man, it sucks when these titles that gets us excited and finally somehow for some reason it just doesn't work out and they get canceled. So I kind of wanted to point out to what you guys would say is your favorite unfortunate cancellation and why.
Hey Mitch, guess what? Rockstar just renewed the Agent trademark. Would you believe it?
Oh, they've done that like 7 times.
Yeah, I know. They didn't really do that. It's just everybody on the internet would get bent out of shape every time the freaking trademark got renewed.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, and I think that's why probably that game, out of all the games that I've ever witnessed in regards to cancellation of a game, had the most, like, just the most buzz constantly, because there was just so many times where it felt like you were getting something or getting somewhere and then it just wouldn't happen. So no,
it never officially got cancelled, did it? I don't think.
No, it just very, very slowly died.
It just died. It's canceled. Like, that team's not working on the game anymore. So unless they like bring it back, they could. I mean, they could bring back Scalebound. Like, there's games that are canceled that could be brought back, but I guess I would say, let's just start with you, Liam. What's your game that's you wish that was in your hands right now?
I was going to say Agent, but you took it from me.
Well, that's okay. You can pick it. Let us know why.
I mean, I can quickly say that just the idea of being set in like Cold War America is very enticing to me. I just, because I've been watching the television program called The Americans quite a lot recently, and I just love that sort of espionage, and like having Russians living in America undercover and their children don't even know that they're Russian spies. I find that to be really, really cool. I would love to have seen something like that in a video game, especially, I mean, we all know of Rockstar's snow physics at this point and things like that, and all of the art had like all of these beautiful mountainous snowy backgrounds. I think it was set in Colorado.
Oh, well, actually, so the detail from the article said there was going to be a hub world in DC.
Oh.
That was open world, and then you would hop between 4 to 5 different locations where a mission would be, and it would be an open world of itself when you go into that specific area.
Oh, wow.
But then they would have set piece action sequences within each mission that is similar to like an Uncharted style action, like very Western Hollywood action set pieces
But
within.
Sorry, Karen, finish your thought.
No, I'm. That's it. Go ahead.
I heard just now. I got a tweet from your source, in fact, who said the reason that Agent was quietly cancelled is because they couldn't come up with an idea of ongoing monetization.
Wow.
It was just going to be the game, and they couldn't come up with Agent Online, or Agent. What would it be? Drop boxes rather than loot boxes. So you find a location and there's a stash there with randomized espionage loot in it. It could just be a deck of cards, or it could have been a silenced pistol. Obviously, the chance of you getting all of those would have been related to how much you were willing to pay. But it's gone now. It's gone now. We just got to deal with it. So, okay, we'll take 3 deep breaths and then we'll get over it together.
It still has a game page.
The worst.
It still has.
Oh, really? Oh, my God.
Yeah, if you go to rockstargames.com/game/info/agent, it still says release date to be announced.
Well,
you know, I was
to make you feel
about
better,
to say to
Liam,
you,
technically they almost had a demo done.
I was about to say to you that what you were saying from that article was sounding very appealing to me, and now I'm feeling some old pains coming back, if you know what I mean.
Well, I agree with you. Reading that article was very disheartening because I really liked what they were doing, but unfortunately, I think the issue that they ran into, I can give you a long story short with the article. There's just a lot of issues within that internal team of them trying to feel like they had to prove themselves as a Rockstar studio because they technically weren't like Rockstar North. They weren't.
Wasn't it Rockstar London, wasn't it? I think.
Not to mine, if I remember right, they're located in California as the studio.
Oh, okay.
But they weren't. They're the title of
it's more expensive to operate out there.
Yeah, but I think the title of the studio itself wasn't even Rockstar. Like usually it's Rockstar North or Rockstar London. It wasn't even Rockstar as their first title. I think if the article said it right, it basically they were a studio that was trying to earn that Rockstar title by doing this game. So they were a third party working with them, hopefully to get bought out by Rockstar to do it. But then all of a sudden, when the game got canceled, because they went through so many different creative differences with a lot of different directors, it very much is reminiscent. And it was actually a couple weeks later, the big story about, what is that game from EA that bombed this year?
Which one?
God, so many. Anthem.
Yeah.
Online game. Anthem. Thank you. Anthem. So literally this story came out, and then about 2 weeks later the Anthem story came out about just the issues internally at that studio as well. They were very similar in regards to issues happening with no one having the right focus on what exactly should be the objective. But what they had there was really cool and interesting on a conceptual side, but it's just unfortunate. But Burkoff, what do you got? What is your almost I wish I had it?
So I was going through and I was trying to find some interesting ones. I have several, but the one that I definitely want to talk about is called Unsung Story. And this is, or was, a game that was going to be made by Yasumi Matsuno, who's the guy behind Final Fantasy Tactics. So this was going to be like a Final Fantasy Tactics spiritual successor. And I don't remember exactly when it got announced, 2012 or 2013, something like that. And
did you back this game on Kickstarter?
No, dude, I never back games on Kickstarter. That's just a waste of time and money.
It also was listed as one of the biggest Kickstarter fails of all time.
Yeah, and so I was going to talk about and maybe parlay that into Kickstarter in general. And see like what our thoughts on that was, because I don't really, unless the game's coming out, I'm not spending money on it. I don't know how anybody else here feels.
I would agree with you. I would, but it's just under the under the pretense that something that you absolutely love doesn't go onto Kickstarter. Like say if Rockstar went, we've got billions in cash, but if we can resurrect Agent or Make Bully 2 just for the fans, if you pay for it,
Right.
I'd be like, I've got to put my money where my mouth is and just do it, even though Rockstar would be stealing from me practically.
I think you hit a very good point there, Liam, in regards to your argument with Rockstar, is because, I think it really just depends on what team it is and what specific company is trying to do this. Where it's someone like, obviously we knew with Hugh Suzuki, like Shenmue was going to get the funding because of who he is, what pedigree he has, and just the culture of that Shenmue game. But if you have
so bad.
It looks really bad.
Yeah, the art style is a little rough on that thing, but who knows? We'll see when it comes out.
Psychonauts and Double Fine was another pretty good example. Like, people love that game.
Yeah.
No, that's another example, and I think it's that the hope is that, like, with your help of the funds, but not specifically only because of your funding, will we be able to make this game. I think what makes the Kickstarters one successful is when they have some kind of partnership with a third party to then point out to say, hey, look at these people, they're interested in this game. Will you partner with us and bring funds in? So of course there has to be some kind of deal that Sony made with Hugh Suzuki for Shenmue when he did his Kickstarter to say, hey, you'll take your initial Kickstarter funds and we'll match it, or we'll do something like that. So then that way they know they have some other financial backing, because there's also the issue of, I think it's called Static Shock. If I remember, I've never played the games before, but there's a remake of it coming out. System Shock. Thank you.
System Shock.
Yeah. So there's that.
They're doing 3.
Yeah.
Well, they're doing 3, but then there's also a remake they were making. Okay. And that one bombed because they only relied on the funding of people. And the issue was that team was a brand new team, and they couldn't decide on, because you don't have an experienced group of people working together, it's hard in game development to finalize on things because you constantly want to update and change things on consistently. But eventually you have to say, no, we need to leave it as it is, and you need to move on.
I don't know. This is a bit of the issue that I have with Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. So I know there's nothing preventing a company going onto Kickstarter with, say, a moderate amount of funder backing and then looking to people to get the rest of the money. But if the concept was that good and the financial payoff proposition was that good, they would have just got all the money in the first place. So you either get all the money from backing, either that's the public or through venture capital, or from another company buying into your idea. This, actually, well done, Matt. This is really good, because I know you're suffering a bit this morning. And what you've done is you mentioned the game and then immediately changed the topic onto something else to let the rest of us talk so that you've got more time to think. You're very clever. So, yeah, I was in my tweet in the promo for this, I was only being partly facetious when I said, so you'll have some of these games on investor calls saying, oh yeah, we've got this game coming out, it's going to be amazing and millions of people are going to buy it, and then 6 months later it gets cancelled, or a year later it gets cancelled. You've got to go back and talk to the same investors and say, oh yeah, we had to cancel that, but it's going to be great because we're going to do something else. What the fucking hell is going on here?
Right.
And the same would apply, probably even more so, to Kickstarter, because you've got to build that hype and be able to convince people to give you the money to produce the game. And then if for whatever reason you're going to cancel a Kickstarter game, you've then got to be able to say, oh yeah, we actually just burned through your money.
Well, you're right, because...
Or I bought a house with it.
Yeah. Very quick. Just going to I just thought though, because it's a really fair point, because for every success story you have like Psychonauts 2 or or System Shock 3 or the first game we mentioned, like for every success story, there's like, I don't know, probably something in the range of
Hundreds.
10 to 20 like failed game projects
Probably.
or projects where people have just gotten their money stolen.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, you would have to say of how many times does that happen, even in the games industry in general, without Kickstarter. I think the only difference is that it's other people. It's you have the opportunity as not part of a company to actually invest in a game if you choose so to do so. And so
People will invest poorly.
Yeah, and I think I would disagree with you, McWomble. I understand why your point with in regards to why can't you just do it all funding through Kickstarter and you should just rely only on that. But if you look at even stuff like Sony or even something like let's look at Call of Duty, for instance, with Activision. Sony's putting up money on that game to have for that advertisement. Like they put up the money.
I don't think that's going into development. That's going.
But it doesn't matter. But it still doesn't matter. They're still paying for that. They're paying into that product. It doesn't just because I say that Shenmue gets a partnership with Sony doesn't mean maybe they're backing them with the dollars. Maybe they're just backing them with advertising. So
actually, Sony has nothing to do with Shenmue. Shenmue, which is something that people were confused by because that game originally appeared during their conference. But Sony were actually only facilitating the advertising for the crowdfunding. Essentially, they're like, "Oh, you want to make this game? Well, you can come on our stage and tell everybody."
But I feel like they would buy for that exclusivity because it's not. I mean, obviously it's also for PC, but it's not coming to Xbox.
There's no exclusivity deal in tow. I expect an Xbox version will probably come out the following year.
Yeah, because that's part of Microsoft's deal with themselves. That anything that comes to PC is also available on Xbox. So if anything's coming to PC, it has to be available on Xbox. Otherwise, Microsoft wouldn't be interested.
And they want to focus on the Asian markets where Xbox is a non-thing, essentially.
Yeah. So sure. I am confused by this. Going back to the other point I made is, how can you kind of build the hype up for a game and say that I'm trying to think of a decent example. So there must have been an investor call with Microsoft and talking about Xbox Studios and saying, "Oh yeah, we've got this exclusive game from Platinum Studios coming out, and it's going to be amazing." And it
was looking amazing.
And there's a guy he's got a fucking dragon, and he wears headphones, and it's going to be fucking amazing.
It's got a dragon arm.
He's got a sword, and you can play multiplayer, and we're going to have multiplayer dragon player headphones.
And we can get a sponsorship for the Beat headphones in the game. And we could get a sponsorship for the soundtrack he's going to listen to.
Yeah, and then having to explain basically a year later to all those same investors as to why Microsoft stock has shot up because you've got this exclusive Platinum game and it's got a emo guy with a dragon and headphones in. They say, "Oh yeah, we're not releasing that anymore." But our stock price shouldn't go down because of this. It's not going to go down. Because we haven't got this thing that we told you was going to be so great. No, there's no change. And actually, it's going to go up. We're just going to release more Gears, Halo, and Forza, and everything's going to be fine.
But don't you think in the sight of that? I mean, Xbox is a weird example for this, but it kind of works at the same time as. You don't want to release a game that is going to just be terrible because that ruins the narrative of what that company is, and that's going to hurt stocks even more because I think companies are more comfortable canceling a game and not knowing it's going to be horrible when it comes out and release a good game some other time rather than release a horrible game, and then all feeds into the topic of what you're saying right now, McWomble. All they can make is Gears, Halo, and look, they tried to make something else and it utterly failed. It was awful. They should just quit as a company. They can't make games anymore. Crackdown 3 sucked. I mean, see, I think
Halo Guardians was pretty god awful.
Well, all right, think about this for a second.
Dreadful.
Everyone be quiet. Matt's talking.
Matt, you need a gavel. Just
So, all right, think about Scalebound for a second. And do you guys remember that Simpsons episode where they redesigned the dog that was like all the horrible everything 90s, right? Like he had the tood.
Unfortunately, I don't watch Simpsons, so you have to explain this.
He had the tood instead of the attitude, and he had
Itchy and Scratchy, right?
right.
Okay, and Poochie.
Poochie, that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
So Scalebound is like Poochie. It's everything.
He's got his hat backwards.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
right.
Mitch, it's Scooby Doo with Scrappy Doo. You get it?
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
Cool. I gotcha. Cool. Thank you.
But that game would have sold. Like people would have bought that game if they
Yeah.
had just released it.
Because it was the only interesting IP that Microsoft really had. And I know that Liam and I have spoken about this, and if I'm pointing in various different directions that don't make sense, for me looking at this, Matt is there, Liam is there, and Mitch is there. So if I'm pointing, there's your directions to understand what the hell I'm doing. So Liam and I have spoken about this because there was unsubstantiated, but from multiple different sources, rumors that Platinum were using money from Microsoft to support other projects on other platforms.
Right.
And that was one of the main reasons that Microsoft canned Scalebound.
Yeah.
And like I said, they're totally unsubstantiated, and Microsoft have never confirmed it. Platinum have never confirmed it. But there was also rumors that there was going to be big delays and big overspends on that as a project. So I can understand from one angle, Platinum have never made a game of that scope and scale before. The closest thing they've probably done is the Switch exclusive Astral Chain. In terms of everything else that they've done has been slightly more linear with lots of heavy combat with light RPG elements, and this was going full bore. We want open world, massive vistas,
Right.
dragons, multiplayer, the whole lot.
Yeah, apparently they were having a lot of trouble with the original Xbox One as well.
Yeah.
Well,
the fact
this
that
was
machine's a
before
piece
the
of
X
shit.
was a thing. Yeah,
Right.
I mean it was terrible.
Yeah,
So
I think
kind of
unfortunately,
understand.
I think unfortunately for that game, it's just I liked the concept. The concept was cool, but I think it felt like it was lacking direction in a sense because there was no context of what was going on. It was just wacky and crazy, but I mean, that can hook a person a little bit in the game, but I think they need a better way to set up the world in the end. But I mean, they only showed 2 points of sections of that entire game, and what was there was cool, and I think it would have sold. Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I mean, McWomble, I think it would have sold if you just released it. But would have gotten punched in the face potentially, like it did for like something like Crackdown 3, and had a narrative for a long time that could have hurt it more? It could, and I don't know if they wanted
part of Crackdown was the fact that it took so goddamn long to come out.
Well, Scalebound was taking forever too.
Yeah, and I
mean, not as long as Crackdown, of course, but similar.
I think on finishing off on Scalebound, I think it was a great idea. Wrong platform, wrong studio.
What platform, what studio would you say it should go to?
I would have said, well, Sony, because it might have actually run.
Ouch! Xbox just got kicked in the shin.
No, I do think that Platinum Games could achieve that game, but I think it would be better suited on the PlayStation. And maybe they did it a little bit too soon. Maybe they should have waited for this generation.
After the
generation coming up. Yeah, but the thing is with the guy who created Scalebound, Hideki Kamiya, I think I'm saying that right, is it's his passion project. It's like the game he says he wanted to make his whole life. So out of practically every cancelled game I can think of, I think there's more of a chance of this game coming back at some point than any other.
Well,
Probably
I think you
with
do
a
have a
different name.
Well, I do think you have a point with well, if I remember right, Platinum owns the name Scalebound, not Microsoft, so they could release as Scalebound regardless. But I think the interesting thing when you guys say Sony is why I think I would agree with you on that is because I think I would have partnered Japan Studio with them because Japan Studio has a recollection of working with other companies, including From Software to work on Bloodborne. That's made in collaboration with Japan Studio. So I think Japan and also Platinum Games is located in Japan. So I think that also is another thing that would have maybe benefited them more. And I think if that might be a smart idea for them to do in the future, if they really wanted to bring Scalebound back, have Japan Studio partner with them. Because at the moment, I mean, the rumor is they're working on Bloodborne 2, but who knows if that ever is actually going to happen or not. We're not. I'm thinking Bloodborne 2 shouldn't be taking this long for it to come out, but so I have a feeling it's actually not in development, or it's coming out right away for the PlayStation 5 and going to blow us away in February when they give us information on PS5. Who knows?
Mitch, do you remember a game called Babylon's Fall?
No.
Why have I heard that name?
Yes. Oh yes. Sorry. Yes. Wasn't that I was the one that mentioned that on the E3 thing, because wasn't that on the PS3 reveal from Capcom? And it looked like
it's a game from Platinum that got announced at last year's E3, so 2018, at that terrible Square Enix conference.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and that game is supposed to be huge, like have roughly the same sort of scale as Scalebound.
But is it bound by it?
It got a release date for I think it was this year. Yeah, it got a release date for last year. But everybody was expecting it to show up at E3 this year, and it just never showed up. So
I'm still waiting for. I have to look up the title of it. There was one that they talked at the Sony PlayStation 4 reveal. Was a Capcom game that looked like a dragon one. I think it was like Dragon's Lair or something like that.
You're thinking of Deep Down.
Deep Down. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
There was no way that game was going to look like that trailer.
I still had my hopes. I was like, this is going to be it. It's going to look like that.
Yeah.
Will the first PS5 game look that good?
No, it's going to be on like the PS20 for it to look that good.
But it can harness the power of the cloud.
Oh my gosh! Don't even talk about the cloud. God damn it! That cloud is going to turn to rain, and it's going to go bye bye. Anyways, I do have a game that I want to talk about that I think McWomble will tie into one of your games on your list, and I want to talk about the game I never knew existed until all of a sudden we got tons of screenshots and some video of. There was going to be a Darth Maul game, guys, and that looked freaking sweet, man. That thing was looking good. Like,
and then Disney.
And how, God, I mean, Disney. Dude, Disney needs to stop taking their hands and touching everybody. It needs to stop. Like, stop touching everyone. Keep your hands to yourself. Take your hands off of our cool games, like our Star Wars games. God dang it. Because, like, gosh, we had two really good potential Star Wars games that could have came out before we even got one good one from EA. And who knows even if the one that's coming out this year is going to be even good. And I even posted this on Sifted, and I hope people agree with me.
That trailer did not do anything for me whatsoever.
No, I think what this game needs, it needs a demo. It needs you to play it to convince you to buy this game, because I'm not convinced watching trailers right now that I'm going to buy this day one. I know people will buy it and it's going to sell a bunch, but for a person that really wants to play an awesome Star Wars game, I need a demo. Like, the thing that convinced me on The Force Unleashed was the demo. Like, I bought that game day one because that demo was so flipping cool. Like, to actually like hold the lightsaber, use the
pick up stormtroopers and chuck them around, and
and so I swear this game just needs to release that E3 demo and just have people try it. But anyways, my game was the Darth Maul game, unfortunately. But I was going to call you Evan, Keith. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. It's just appreciating how handsome I am matches.
I like your background.
You and your broad shoulders. And
I don't go on 4K runs every day though. Fuck that shit.
So Keith, what is the game that you have that is similar to mine that I am just like, what the F, Disney?
Who is that silhouetted gentleman behind you?
That would possibly be either a new character entirely in the Star Wars universe, or could have been a young Boba Fett from Star Wars 1313.
Nobody knows which.
And we'll never know.
We'll never know because Disney.
And that game came out of nowhere too. That game was sweet.
The trailer for that, an Uncharted style Star Wars game. Oh my god, come on. I might have even actually liked an Uncharted style game because it was set in the Star Wars universe.
So am I confused, or was 1313 the Amy Hennig game?
No.
They were separate.
Totally
they were separate games.
Amy Hennig was through EA. This one was done before EA had Star Wars rights. This was all before Disney. These were canceled before Disney. I mean, because of the mouse. Because General Tso's chicken.
So I was really hyped for this game because it just looked really cool. You were dealing with the slightly grimier side of the Star Wars universe.
Well, it was supposed to be an M-rated game, so you know.
Yeah, it was, and then Disney bought it and said we don't do M-rated games.
Yeah, Darth Maul was going to be M-rated as well, and they said we don't do M-rated games.
Yeah, and I just think you're losing out on something there. And I know they're going to make their money back through the people buying subscriptions to Disney Plus to watch The Mandalorian. But I just thought that this could have done something with the Star Wars universe that would have been so much more interesting than the shite that EA pumped out of Satan's rectum.
Honestly, this seemed like a turning point for Star Wars, like in games industry, to be honest, because you look at 1313, you look at the Darth Maul game that had stuff for it. They looked like really good quality games. And what we were getting before that, it was starting to work its way there because, you know, in the beginning, all we got is this licensed, a lot of licensed stuff. Like, I think the only thing I remember that was a good Star Wars game before that. I mean, I liked The Force Unleashed. I thought it was a good game. Not a great game, but a good game. And then also there was the GameCube TIE Fighter game. I can't remember what they call it.
It's Rogue Squadron, wasn't it?
Yes, thank you. Yeah. But I think that was also that was a good Star Wars game. So it's starting to work itself there because the games before that were not really that great, to be honest. They were just really licensee out games where they kind of licensed them out.
Dare you? The Dark Forces games were excellent.
I never played the Dark Forces.
Except when I tried to play them again this year. And I realised how fucking janky they were. I have such fond memories of those games, and trying to replay them, it was just, what was I thinking?
But I would say yes, those are probably good games, but in the overall, it's probably like 90% shit and like a little speck of goodness in little pieces of the area.
There's a sprinkling of goodness on that polished turd.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think this was a real turning point for Star Wars. So it was so disheartening when this happened because, first of all, the 1313 looked great, and then we found out months later after Disney acquired Star Wars and then decided to cancel all these projects, and we figured out what these projects were, including the Darth Maul game. It was really sad to know that it seemed like they had a turning point, and it was going to turn out to be really good for them in the games industry, and we'll never know. You know, McWomble, maybe that silhouette behind you, he might make it in The Mandalorian.
I don't think so. And do you want to know who else isn't going to make it anywhere? Who was a character that in a game that I just thought this could be really, really compelling.
Oh.
That game
Prey. Oh my gosh. You can go, but I got something on Prey that I'm just.
And the idea for this version of Prey 2, well, because it was Prey 2 and then they made Prey again. So the version of Prey that they made again was so much less compelling to me than this one. Who wouldn't want to be a badass bounty hunter in some sci-fi alien world trying to figure out how to get home and hunting down alien criminals and being treated like an outsider because you're the only human. That just sounded so compelling. And then they made a game where you can turn into a mug.
Yeah, I wasn't too keen on the new one. I've heard that it's a really good game, and a lot of my friends have
It's
said
Arcane Studios, so it's going to have a good level of quality. But
Yeah, I really quite love that game, actually. I must admit.
yeah, but for me personally, I just didn't like the concept of the game as much as what this touted.
I think that's kind of what stops me from buying the game, even on sale. You know, you could pick it up probably for $10 at GameStop now, but I always go to the store and I pick it up and I'm like, I might buy this to play it, but it's like, I don't want to be stuck on a space station and fighting shadows.
Yeah,
it is the concept.
If someone wants me to fight shadows, you make a goddamn Babylon 5 game.
Okay, so here's my thing on this whole thing. Sorry, I just can't hold it anymore. I disagree with all y'all. I think your game.
I haven't said anything yet.
Your game, McWomble's that way. McWomble, your game on your screen right there is not Prey in any capacity. I think
it's more like the original Prey than.
No, hold on a second. So
drinking my longboard.
So I think your game on your screen is not Prey. I think the game that came out is not Prey. If you played the original Prey, none of this has to do with the concept of Prey. So why in the world are they calling your game Prey 2, which I think is a cool ass game? I'd play that game any day. I'm sad it's canceled. But why in the hell are you calling it Prey 2? It has nothing to do with the first game of Prey. Like, it has no connection except for aliens. That's all you got. That's not a good enough connection.
It was aliens and abduction and then shooting stuff.
And Native American stuff. Yeah. And you had a Native American bow and arrow. I remember that really clear. And you were in a bar. I remember the bar in the beginning of the game. Like, that was actually my first time playing an Xbox 360, was playing the original Prey, with my stepbrother. He had the Xbox. That's where I played Cameo. Love that game. But anyways, I really liked that concept that they showed, but I was frustrated because I was like, this isn't Prey. You could call it something else. But I did like, for once they had a Native American character, and they actually seemed to do that character some justice a little bit in regards to understanding Native American heritage and relating it to those aspects of that character. And so I was just a little disheartened that they didn't keep going with that concept, with that character, and still relate it to those things. Instead, they decided to transform it into something that is completely, to me, unrecognizable as Prey. And so I disregard those names and say they are not Prey in any capacity, in any form. I will play them. I would play that game, but I just don't see why you would call it Prey 2. Or what do you call the other game? Prey. It has nothing.
I think it was purely because the first game had a human abducted by aliens, and then they went around shooting aliens. And then this game had a human abducted by aliens, and he went around shooting aliens. But this time he might arrest some of them.
But I feel like it seemed like the concept they were setting up for that game was that he was already in the world and he's trying to escape from it, not get abducted by them. And then
in the opening trailer, he was on a plane, and then the plane just gets sucked somewhere.
I'll have to watch that trailer again. It's been a while.
It's a cool trailer with a Johnny Cash soundtrack. And yeah, so you're on a plane, and then you see that he's a US Marshal, and then the plane starts juddering around like it's in turbulence, and then all of a sudden there's a bright light and it fades to black, and then he's on this alien world looking at his US Marshal's badge, and then runs across a rooftop, and then slides down and jumps on anti-gravity boots, and then starts scanning. I don't know very much about the trailer.
But Burkoff, you were giving me a weird look when I was talking about all this, so I got to hear your hot take on this.
He's just not feeling very well.
I was actually Liam started to say something.
I mean, I was going to say that the thing with Prey 2 is it's one of the.
I love this diversionary tactics from Matt. It's like, I'm not feeling great today, so what I'm going to do is every time someone asks me something, I'm just going to turn it over to someone else.
Hot potato.
You know, I'm going to use this situation to redirect it back at Matt afterwards. It's just like Prey 2 is one of the only games that I've never been fooled by. Like the moment that game was announced, I thought that doesn't look real. I don't think that's real. I thought that for months on end, and nothing else came out for that game. And then, you know, after it got cancelled, we just found out it never even made it out of the conceptual phase. Like that game was never a thing. That whole trailer was just complete.
Well, it's just a CG trailer.
Exactly.
And it was to build hype. They did have some assets that got leaked. So they weren't 4K assets, but there were some in-game, but they must have been a tiny segment of what people were developing as kind of conceptual images for what the game might look like. But they did have, I think it was about 10-second playable sequence that got leaked that looked similar enough to the trailer that
I feel like I remember that being very framey.
Yeah,
it was very much pre-alpha or something like that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Pre-alpha. Matt, what was your take on that?
That's right. Yeah, Matt, what is your take on that?
Well, I was thinking, what about games that get released elsewhere but don't come to the Western world?
Wait, don't change the subject. We're talking about Prey right now. What do you think, Matt?
Actually, I don't really have too much of an opinion on it. I do kind of remember the trailer that McWomble was talking about.
Such a good trailer.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like that's a cool game, or it will be a cool game, but yeah, nothing ever came of it, so I'd forgotten about it.
Matt, is there ever been a game that got announced that you were so hyped for that when it got cancelled, you sent the developer death threats?
I can't say that there has been.
I can't either, Mitch.
Oh God, no. The energy to find them, no way.
Well, let me see. Rockstar, Square Enix, so many. No, never. Because
just every company, because every company has at least one canceled game.
Yeah,
That's actually.
I owe EA at least like 100. You know.
Yeah. But kind of going back to what we were talking about last week in terms of the behaviour of gamers, I just can't think of any situation where I go to the effort of calling people out for cancelling stuff and then to the tune of actually issuing death threats to people, because this has actually happened on some of the games that we talked about.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even delays people get death threats about, and that's ridiculous because it's like, dude, would you rather me release a terrible mess of a game and then you'll death threat me because I released a piece of shit, rather than just waiting a couple more months and you actually get a decent game that you actually would be proud of?
Yeah, do you know who doesn't get those? Hideo Kojima.
I thought he gets piss threats.
Well, I'm still waiting for that no urination run through of Death Stranding. That's going to be a gold trophy.
I
just can't help but think you have to be a certain kind of stupid to not realise that the person who's actually making said cancelled game is probably a little more pissed than you are that their project is cancelled.
Or disappointed or sad, or most likely they
spent
lost
years of their life developing this thing, and then that's it. Quite
a lot of these people that when these things get cancelled don't have work.
Yeah.
No, exactly.
Some of them even retire.
The Sony Santa Monica game that got canceled. If you ever see Raising Kratos, I give them credit. They cover about that game a little bit and talk about how they had to reduce their team to make God of War because that game was no longer going to be in development, because they were going to do what they call a 1.5 tier company. So they'd be working on one project and then about a a
Oh,
small group
no.
of the workforce was going to work on the next game, and so they were working on their untitled sci-fi adventure game, and they were working on God of War as the other half. And unfortunately, the sci-fi one didn't work out, and they had to cut the workforce because they were moving studios and they didn't have enough tasks for these people to do to work on God of War, so they had to let them go. So it's disappointing for everyone, and for someone to think that that you need to express that you're more frustrated,
Yeah.
in your frustration of anger and threats is not going to help the situation, nor will it change the situation because it's not even in their control.
And going back to what we were talking about 2 weeks ago about entitlement, you are not entitled to having a video game.
Especially if it's not even completed.
Yeah.
It's not even done.
Just take the last 2 years of your life, quantify that, and say, okay, that's not relevant anymore. Like, how many people can do that? Like, that's got to be...
That's insane. And you can't even, and you don't get any piece of it to take with you, most likely, because it's not, you don't own any of it.
That's what I'm saying.
I thought Matt was actually asking us to do that.
No, I was just saying, imagine if you...
I just thought it's kind of, you were coming out with this apothecary statement. It's the kind of, here's some wisdom from hungover Matt. Imagine taking 2 years of your life and just saying, this is irrelevant. Can you live with that?
All right. Is there any other games that we want to talk about before we wrap it up?
Yep.
Oh, I've got one more too.
All right, Liam. What do you got?
Okay. I thought of this actually while we were doing the podcast, and I wondered why this hadn't came to mind before. But Rainbow Six Patriots.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. That even got a Game Informer article. I remember reading that.
I was so excited for that game. So excited. I just thought, oh, look, I'm fed up of the generic... I mean, this was like when Call of Duty was starting to go into its shitty days, you know? And, what a cool concept to have a bunch of homegrown terrorists, you know. That,
what do you mean by Call of Duty shitty days? Because I actually quite liked Infinite Warfare.
Oh, I love Infinite Warfare.
Thank you very much. You are an enlightened human
I'm talking
being.
about Ghosts up to Infinite Warfare, really. And then, I'm sorry, Black Ops 4 ain't great either.
But if I remember right, the time that Patriots was going to come out was when Call of Duty was hitting its biggest stride, which this was probably around Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, or really around that era. And that's where they had the most success. And that's why Rainbow Six was trying to do that game to try to compete.
Patriots got announced, I think it was in 2012 or 13, so it was roughly around the time Black Ops 2 came out, or slightly after, I believe. Well, I don't know. Did they announce it first, or did they show that demo for it? Because I guess that demo was the thing that changed everything for me.
Well, it's probably because they pushed the pause button on it and thought, do you know what we need to do? We need to think about how we get on recurrent user spending and how we turn this into a game as a service.
2011 was its announcement, and 2013 was when 2014 it got canceled.
Oh wow! Yeah, I mean that's actually a lot sooner than I thought. But it's just that game looked awesome. Like just from the whole scenario of having homegrown terrorists that you have to contend with, you know, basically your own patriots, a bunch of people that were like actual, you know, proper army dudes that were jumping over to the other side, trying to take over America from the inside, like capturing your wife and trying to kill her, loads of like tense hostage situations and stuff. I was like, that's so cool, like the tactical gameplay of Rainbow Six in a sort of new modern era, I suppose, because that franchise was kind of behind. I like the two Vegas games, but those were a bit samey, I guess.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I really enjoy the concept of the original Rainbow Six games, of having to plan out your mission ahead of time before you actually execute it. When Patriots turned into Siege and they showed that demo, I was like, this looks cool, but it's Counter-Strike. And I've already got that game, you know. That was disappointing for me when Patriots turned into Siege and they're like, we've got a new Rainbow Six game.
But I think the good thing about, I would say, Siege is it finally came back to what made Rainbow Six Rainbow Six. Because I remember when I was a kid playing the original Rainbow Six for the PlayStation 1, that was all about extraction and making sure you're saving the hostage. You have teammates, you have to be coordinated, and you have to be strategic about how you're going to handle it. And adding the new element of having the people go extract and having the people protect, I think really kind of brought Rainbow Six back to what made Rainbow Six Rainbow Six. And I think them trying to say, hey, we're going to be the same as Call of Duty, or try to one up what Call of Duty does, I think felt, even though it was a cool concept to think about, I think it felt like a little bit out of the element of how is this Rainbow Six? Like, what is Rainbow Six anymore? It has an identity.
I don't know if you know, but Siege was essentially the multiplayer mode for Patriots. And instead, they scrapped the single player and just decided to stick with what they were developing for the multiplayer.
Recurrent user spending.
Well, exactly. I can't help but feel, because I really enjoy Siege. I think it's a great game. I wish I had more time to play it. But I can't help but think that I would be so much more overjoyed with that game if it had included what they were trying to make with Patriots.
Yeah, I don't know if it was Rogue Spear an expansion, or was it the second game?
That was an expansion, I think.
I think it's like expansion.
So I remember playing Rogue Spear, and there was like, you had to actually look at the map ahead of time, and like, position your guys and like figure out like how you were gonna go through the map and everything. I don't know. I like that aspect of the game, and I feel like that's lost in the multiplayer with Siege. You get 15 seconds or whatever to try and figure out where everything's at, and then fucking go at it. And
yeah, but now you've got Ghost Recon, so that element's back, and it's amazing. It's better than ever.
Okay, that's fair.
Because you've got the Punisher in it, and microtransactions, and
did you see the dog on the stage?
I mean, God,
did you? There was a dog on the stage.
And it was well behaved. I so wanted that dog to go for a piss in the corner.
I was just expecting John Wick to come on stage, because Keanu was already on Microsoft stage, just to go, "That's my dog," and then just a whole fight breaks out, like a staged fight, and then everyone's like, "John Wick survives."
The Punisher versus John Wick. I would pay good money to see that.
Over the dog.
And John Bethnal suddenly tears his t-shirt off, and he's got a black t-shirt with the skull.
You think he's the Punisher? I am the new Punisher. I do want to give one quick shout out to one quick game. I don't know if you ever heard of this game, but I just thought of it now as we were talking about stuff, and we were talking about Vegas a bit. There's a game called This Is Vegas. I remember reading it in a Game Informer article back then. It was announced in 2000. Well, it was in development in 2010, and then got canceled. It basically was going to be it was basically going to try to compete with Grand Theft Auto. It was going to be Grand Theft Auto.
Was it one of the true successes of True Crime?
No, that wasn't going to be it. That was a different game completely. Successful as a True Crime, but
into Sleeping Dogs.
Sleeping Dogs.
Yeah, I love that game. Okay, so good.
Yeah, but this one was going to try to be Grand Theft Auto, except in Vegas. And so I was actually, when I read that article when I was younger, because I still have my stacks of Game Informer articles, so I still read them occasionally just to like go back and go like, what was kind of the hot games, and go like, oh yeah, that's why the topic came up, because I was like, oh yeah, this was canceled. Oh yeah, this was canceled. Oh yeah, I remember this review. So This Is Vegas was one that did catch my eye, and I just completely have forgotten about it over these last couple of years, and I just remembered it now, going, you know what? This game never came out, but I think this would have been an interesting competitor to make Rockstar try harder, potentially, for people that aren't into Rockstar's games, to maybe potentially make them try harder to get more people to their audience. But that was just a shout out. Mikwambo,
I seem to remember. Sorry, I just wanted to say I remember that game, and I remember that game having a lot of personality. Like
yeah,
going like through the casinos and pushing old ladies on the freaking on the machines out of the way.
It was based on Matt's life.
Well, and then you had like ladies on your arm. Like it had such character to it. It had
cool.
such pizzazz. It made you feel like Las Vegas, baby. Like this is it. Like you own the show. Just like Matt does every time he steps outside. There's just confetti everywhere, shouting out his name.
There is a rumor that Matt blings himself up when he goes outside. So this is just him chill.
Just on the smoking breaks, he just blings out only on his smoking break.
Yeah, and then he gets all the gold on, gets the hats out.
It's got to be sideways, just slightly, just to the.
Is it a jaunty or a rakish angle that you wear your hats?
Neither of those.
Is it backwards then? Are you going old school 90s, bro?
No, I mean, I don't know.
It's just gold. You just lace yourself in gold and go.
He's even got grills that he puts on his teeth.
Right. Right. Here's a game that it may be slightly pessimistic, but I don't think we'll ever see a good game of this franchise ever again. And wait for it.
Picture.
Oh no!
It's gone.
You just broke Matt's heart right there. Matt is broken.
Heart. Jesus. I don't think that this is going to ever see a HD remake.
Oh no!
I know. I feel your pain. I've played this for more. I definitely played this longer than you have.
Hey, Keith, it's not going to see the light of day behind you. Light, get it? Haha, sunrise.
It's not going to see a HD remake, and it's not going to get another game because Andromeda was so shit.
Wow, and then Anthem.
But it wasn't actually that bad.
It was
Matt and I have dissected this game at length, and it wasn't as bad as people were saying. But I think it didn't do well enough for this franchise to get resurrected in any way, despite what BioWare is saying that the franchise isn't dead. Because BioWare are just going to get like every other marginally successful. Well, it goes from hugely successful to marginally successful because EA, to unsuccessful to we're going to take you out behind the shed. Fetch me the bit of 2x4.
Keith, you're actually more right than you probably would think you are, because BioWare isn't even the same studio it was anymore.
No, it's not.
It's
not been the same studio since the two doctors left.
Yeah. Even throwing a truckload of cash at Casey Hudson to bring him back, I don't know that that's going to save them.
Well, it's probably the same people are not passionate about that project anymore. They're passionate about Dragon Age instead. Or, to be honest,
yay, fantasy shit.
McWomble, I think you will get your Mass Effect game, your real Mass Effect game sequel. It just will never be under the title of Mass Effect because the people that left created their own studio. So potentially they will be releasing their own game that probably will be the real sequel to Mass Effect 3 in a real trilogy.
It will be a Babylon 5 themed version.
There's Stoic that does the Banner Saga games. They're all from BioWare.
Yeah, but those games are hard as balls.
Yeah.
You've actually made me depressed, like literally.
That's why I'm here. Why do you think I come on?
I'm just thinking about all of the death threats I'm going to have to send to EA this week.
I don't have enough time. I've got to work.
And on that note, unfortunately, on the somber note, Liam,
we'll never see a Mass Effect game ever again.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate having you on the show. Welcome anytime.
I'm coming back.
It's your fault, McWomble. You ruined our guest.
And he can get over it. He can just threaten someone with jam and make himself feel better.
And so, just like
I'll feel
Liam,
better in a week.
And just so like Liam, if you want to be on the show, like McWomble said, just message myself, McWomble, or Matt Burkoff on Sifted. We would love to have, we always have guests on the show, and we have some amazing topics that we've been thinking of. I already want to say we should definitely do lack of game demos next week, fellas.
Maybe.
Do I get an amen?
I'll just talk about PlayStation Underground for 30 minutes.
Hey, I still have mine. I still have like 4 discs of PlayStation Underground. Heck, how do you know I played Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
Right.
That's on the demo,
Yeah,
man.
I never bought Parappa the Rappa. I had the demo, and that was enough for me.
Well, Burkoff, we'll have to have a section of demos we play but never bought the game.
No one should have bought Parappa the Rapper.
All right, but sounds good. So Burkoff, sign us out of here.
And on that note, gentlemen, we are out. All right.